Awesome. All right. Thank you for starting the recording, Norrin. Go ahead and call to meet tonight's meeting to order of the Tech Commission, the Information Technology Advisory Commission. Let me open up that agenda that I sent around so I can remember all of the things that we need to do. Here we go. First up is usually public comment. We have some people dialing in. There we go. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. All right. Chair's update. I have no update. Frank is out of the country. He said he'd try and join in, but he's in, I think, Australia. So no real update. I do have, well, I guess the only update is that Miranda completed her first draft of the letter she committed to last month. Gave her some feedback on it. Miranda, do you want another round before we bring it into the discussion?
No, I'm actually comfortable with it. I made one small change per your suggestion. It's in your inbox, just including the fact that there was going to be a follow-up to the ADA. No prices will be made, but then there is going to be a follow-up. So I added that in, but everything else looked good. So
awesome.
We are free to discuss.
So if we have time tonight, we can start the conversation on that. That would be great. All right. Our first agenda item is the county county website update with Mr. Herlihy, who managed to get out of our clutches for a couple years here and turn us over to Richard. But you can't quite get away from us completely. It's good to see you.
Good to be back. It's good to see you.
So I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yeah, a lot of new faces here. So thanks for inviting us back. A lot has happened in the last couple of years. So what we wanted to do is give you a little bit of an update on where we stand with the public website since we launched that a couple of years back now, which is hard to believe. And I've got a couple other folks on the call as well. I'll let them introduce themselves. And then got a quick presentation, and we can do some Q&A real quick as well. So Maureen, would you like to? There you go. Hi, Maureen.
Hey, how are you all? I'm Maureen Dilge. I work with David in the Department of Technology Services. I've been working for the county for about 12 years. Previously, I had actually been in the county manager's office on the communications team. And then before that, I worked for National Geographic for about 15 years, the majority of that on their public website and in their digital services. Ryan, do you want to say hi?
I do want to say hi. Hello, I'm Ryan Hudson. I am the Director of Communications in the County Manager's Office. I've been with the county for, I believe it's just a bit over 8 years now. And so I do a lot of the communications for the county and help oversee communications on the website, social media, newsletters, all sort of communications tools that we offer.
And I might as well introduce myself since there's so many new faces here. I'm David Herlihy. I'm head of digital innovation and cloud and for the county. So without much ado, let me jump into the presentation here and let me share this out. There we go. Can y'all see my screen okay? Perfect. Excellent.
Yes. Question, will these slides be available later? It affects how I take notes.
Yeah, we can make those available. No problem.
Thank you.
Yep, no worries. Just so a little background on how we got here. We launched the website over 2 years ago. The site at that time was over 7 years old, long overdue for a refresh, not only from a user experience point of view, but from a technical architecture point of view. Primary reason at that time was being driven by the architecture. The site was increasingly unstable, not secured. We'd had numerous issues with it. And going back to the site being about 7+ years old, 8 years old. And we looked at it as an opportunity to change around and really get in line, technology speaking wise, with a new platform, a new way of publishing content, since the public website is the top communication vehicle for the county to the community. We were also looking at the time as at the quality of our content, how our content is structured. We went through a very major cross-departmental exercise at that time, looking at our content, how it's formed, very big knowledge management, information architecture exercise that we went through in a relatively short amount of time, given the instability of the old site and the platform that we were on. And also we wanted to keep up with what the community and businesses are expecting of us in terms of overall digital services and interactions, and setting the stage for more development and more open structure of an architecture to be able to add things onto the website. And this new, not so new anymore, platform that we've been on has been able to achieve that for the county in terms of content and technical architecture. In terms of just overall project strategy, again, it was focused on making the website more service oriented, getting people to where they need to be faster in terms of services that we offer. A lot of that was done with a human-centric design mentality and approach, with multiple user groups, user experience, internal and external, that we went through. We used a lot of analytics to drive how we laid out our information architecture, based around that service-oriented approach for residents. As I mentioned before, we were doing this to create a better platform to drive innovation, technical innovation, ultimately delivering better digital services and user experience for all of our residents and businesses. So that's a little bit of a background of the project from 2 years ago. A lot of that is still holds true today of what we're driving towards and how we're using that technology. Just some web stats I think are pretty interesting. What kind of back up our approach on the service oriented is, if you look at our column here, 2023 year to date, everyone is pretty much going to services. They're either going to search to look for other content, or they're going to pay bills, or they're looking at property search, which is always up at the top of the list. But that's generally what folks are looking for at this time. It's interesting to see on this is that COVID testing has dropped off of that. So as a sign of us kind of moving away of post-COVID world, COVID isn't up in the top 10 anymore, which is very interesting to see finally having that dropped off. The other thing, and I'll turn this over to Ryan, that we'd want to discuss about is accessibility and ADA compliance with the public website and some of the efforts that we're doing there. So Ryan, I'll turn this over to you. A little bit, start a discussion on that topic. Ryan?
Great. Thank you very much, David. Yeah, so we wanted to highlight some of the work that we continue to do throughout the website in an effort to continue to have it be ADA compliant, and just to continue to, I think, really sort of better some of those efforts, as it were. And so we're always really thinking about how our content is more accessible to residents, and that's, thinking about it mobile first, and thinking about alt tags, thinking about language translation. And just as important as that is, it's easy for us to sort of say that, but to actually, I guess, sort of have that trickle down to all the users on the back end of our website. The county, throughout its many departments, as a result, has many users to the website that are creating content, uploading documents. And so we're really doing our part to, in the coming year, to really, I think, up some of our training and up some of our best practices to ensure that the content that is being uploaded and updated on our site continues to be ADA compliant, and that we take some steps to further ensure that a lot of our documents and web pages continue to be that way. And I think I'm turning it back over to you, David, for the next slide. Or maybe it's Maureen. You're muted, David.
Looks like David's on mute, but I can take it.
There you go, Maureen. Sorry.
So one of the things we're going to look at, we're actually going to sort of have a semi-formal study of how we can optimize our accessibility. We know there's some easy wins. Training, as Ryan mentioned, is certainly one of them. We believe that our images, for the most part, are lacking alt tags. So we want to make sure we train staff on how to add those alt tags, how to write them appropriately, and to make that sort of a concerted effort over the next few months. We also want to hear from people, right? We work on the site every day, so how we experience it is very different from how somebody else in the public experience it. So at the very least, we want to start with some feedback gathering from the group, that's currently meeting here today, but also the Disability Commission, as well as the Commission on Aging. Based on that feedback, we'll look at the overall scope and timeline and what we can do to optimize the accessibility of the site. One of the tools that we have available to us on the next slide is something called Page Assist. We use a software product that helps us check our links, make sure that we have a reporting system for broken links that's letting us know if something needs to be fixed. We can also sort of do other quality assurance things with that tool. And then that tool also gives us access to this product called Page Assist. What it does, the image on the lower left, it puts a little circle. We can choose where that circle goes on the page. That circle would show up on all of our web pages. And when clicking on that, you see this expanded view, which gives you options as the user. You can pick your options. Less distraction, something that highlights the headlines, something that makes the fonts bigger or smaller. So this is something we could turn on pretty easily if we think that there is interest in this, and that would give our site some enhanced accessibility.
Thank you. Thanks, Maureen. I think, Ryan, you were up next. We wanted to talk a little bit about just the overall content strategy and improvement projects that we have going on, as there's a lot of progress that has been made on that front over the last year and a half. Ryan?
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Double checking I'm not muted. Okay, great.
Yep.
So yeah, we, as David has said, we've launched this website, but as I'm sure you all know, a website is very much a sort of living, breathing thing, in the sense of we're constantly iterating, constantly updating, and constantly working to make it better for the users. And as such, we have a website governance team that stretches across various departments that meets regularly. And we've identified some projects that are already well in the works, and in some cases are completed or nearing completion. And with the goal being for all the projects to really work to provide information that is quick, easily accessible, and really intuitive for a user to experience. When a user comes to our website, we obviously want it to make it as easy as possible to find what they're looking for. And it's sort of with that thinking that we approached all of these various projects. And I'll just briefly go through some of them. Some of the ones here, if you want to go to the next slide for the A to Z directory, David. So the A to Z directory, first off, if you don't know it, it is a great resource on our website. It sort of is just what it sounds like. It's almost what like the white pages, I suppose, used to be, for folks who remember the white pages. So this lists all of the county's various resources, departments, contact information, throughout, again, all the departments. We're working currently on updating a lot of the entries, but also really rethinking how it's presented, and thinking through what the best strategy is for what information is presented there, and looking, like we cited some analytics before, looking again at what is the most popular information here, and how can we surface that quicker for a user. One of the other projects is the neighborhood pages. So we're currently sort of overhauling all of the existing neighborhood pages, and I'm just showing the Columbia Pike page here as the example. So that is what the new neighborhood pages will look like. And that's really an effort that is going to have neighborhood specific, but also county-wide content. So again, the thinking being that a user can use this as a resource to see what's happening in their neighborhood very quickly. So it will feature the plans and projects that are going on. It will have, it will link to the What's Near Me map. So again, you could click that and immediately see what's happening around you, as well as see some of the county's resources, whether it's parks or libraries, and everything that is happening. And so that is in the process. That's been approved, and that's moving on to actually working to recreate those templates and to start updating those neighborhood pages on the website. And then similarly is the project pages.
Hey, Ryan, Jackie
oh, yes.
has a question. She wants to know
sure thing.
what
Sorry, I don't have that screen
what we're
open. Yep.
defining as a neighborhood.
Sorry, say that again.
What's a
What is it?
neighborhood?
So it's gonna coincide with not exactly with like the civic associations, but working to identify what some of those are. And so really featuring some areas where we're directing growth or have active planning initiatives. So for example, we're going to be looking at adding a Langston Boulevard neighborhood page.
Those are corridors. We call those corridors.
Right, right.
There are multiple neighborhoods. Lots of
Exactly,
neighborhoods.
exactly. So there will be, that's just one example. There will be other neighborhood pages throughout that area as well.
Well, just I can't help myself because I'm with the Civic Federation. So I would suggest that you have a conversation about the use of your terms when you're talking about neighborhoods with some of the neighborhoods before you use this as a generic, as if everyone will know what you're talking about, because these are huge sections of Arlington and not what we call a neighborhood. These are corridors. Transportation corridors is what you've named so far. And that's what they're called in planning and zoning. So anyway, it's a feedback point on terminology.
Sure. And I just dropped in the link, the current neighborhood pages that we have, and you'll see that it'll, by and large, likely mirror that. The team is still working through identifying which of those might need updates and might not need updates. But you'll see there that, it includes some larger areas, and in some cases, probably multiple neighborhoods, as it's outlined on the website. And that's so it's those individual pages that are linked there that are being updated and really reformatted.
Yeah. All I want to say is I think it bears a little more thinking rather than assigning a definition.
Okay. I will take that back to the team. Thank you. Let's see. So moving on to the project pages. So throughout our dozens and dozens of project pages, we just learned that there were some inconsistencies at times across departments. There's multiple departments have their own projects ongoing, and we wanted to make an effort to ensure that the project pages across those multiple departments are really following a consistent user experience in terms of categories, look and feel. And so a team has created, which is what is the example that is up right now, has created a design template so that moving forward, every project page will be consistent and includes key categories like location, status, process, for example. And so now this is, it's also a clearer and easier to understand layout, we hope, at least. And you'll see there with that sort of lighter gray horizontal boxes with the plus sign, that will have expanded information. Again, we're trying to keep the information more easily presented to a user. And again, thinking about the amount of traffic that we get on mobile, knowing that just loading a giant page of text is not going to be super user friendly. So trying to think about how we can sort of condense some of that information, but for those who want more details and more explanation, the drop downs are there and available. And I wanted to touch on the business portal as well. So the business portal is live, and I can drop a link in here after that. So what we try to do with the business portal, there are business resources across many departments throughout the county, whether it was CPHD or AED. And so we really wanted to create a sort of one-stop shop, essentially, that provides every sort of business question that an individual might have. Their answer would be found on our new business portal page. And so it organizes the resources by a business user's needs and not by a department. I think we've found that a lot of users don't necessarily care or know what information the department belongs in. They're just looking for the information. And so this new business portal really reshapes how we're presenting that information. And then just as importantly, we've made on that webpage very clear contact information. So users never sort of felt like they're left behind or that they're just sort of stuck on that page. If for some reason they do have questions, can't find what they're looking for, we've made the contact information very apparent for them to reach out. And then going on to the county code, Maureen, this might be better for you to speak to, but I can at least open it up and say that we're updating the county code searchability on our website. If you've ever looked at the county code, it is very long, it is very dense, and not always super easy to find what you're looking for. And so we're making updates to that, Maureen.
Yeah, so the previously the county code was just a listing of PDFs. So if you wanted to know specifically whether your neighbor's grass, was too high and if there was anything you could do about that, you would have to know which chapter would include the information about grass and grass trimming. So in the screenshot here, I typed into the search window grass. You can see it has narrowed down the chapters that could address what you're looking for. It also highlights that keyword in the description. And then, hopefully it will make it easier for people to find not just the correct chapter, but the correct part of that chapter where it discusses the issue. Another good example is chickens. We talk about, sort of whether you can or cannot have livestock in your yard in Arlington is addressed in a specific chapter of the county code. Typing in chickens would help you narrow down exactly where you need to look in the county code, rather than just having a list of PDFs with titles and having to open them up and kind of scroll through all of those PDFs to find what you're looking for. So this launched about a month or two ago. We still have, when you load this page, it still defaults to listing all the chapters in numerical order. But once you start searching, the results do filter down and serve up hopefully a more narrow search.
We had a question there from Jackie.
Yeah, so if you searched setbacks as one word, if it's written that way, it should be highlighted. If it didn't come up, you could try setbacks as two separate words and it should still bring it up. But yeah, something like setbacks, as long as the word setbacks is in the document, it would help you filter to that particular chapter of the county code that talks about setbacks.
So I could try all three, set 2 words, hyphenated word, combined word, and it will bring me all of those examples. If I know what I'm doing and searching for terms.
Correct.
Yep.
And it'll take me to the part of the code that talks about setbacks for different zoning categories.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I know currently the county board office gets a lot of inquiries, I need to, which part of the county code do I look at for this particular bit of information? And then they are, for each and every one of those requests, replying back with specific feedback. Of course, they'll, continue to provide that service for whomever asks, but we're hoping that this better search experience will make it a little bit easier for people to find what they're looking for on their own without having to reach out to staff.
Alrighty. I think that was our last slide on content. So just kind of wrapping things up. As I mentioned before, what we're, the website's, it's a living, breathing animal, as Ryan was mentioning, needs constant care and feeding. Some of the things that we're looking at in the not so distant future is, AVA 2.0, Arlington Virtual Assistant 1.0 has been out on water and recycling pages for quite some time. Way back when we were talking about AVA with this group, the goal had always been is to have AVA expand across the whole entire website. Unfortunately, COVID hit and our plans went sideways, like everybody's plans, but we are getting back to that now of looking at expanding AVA and having more of a kind of a chat GPT type experience. We'll be able to interact, user will be able to interact with the data that we have across the whole entire website. Document search was something that's been brought up in some of the feedback that we're looking at. What Maureen was just talking about with county code is kind of a step one in terms of technology and laying the groundwork for that. We've got about 15,000 plus documents on the website. I believe 14,000 of them are named agenda, so we've got some cleanup that we've got to do there before the technology can actually start resolving some of the issues we have there, looking for documents. Of course, ADA compliance we're looking at, as we've discussed, and obviously launching the content improvement projects. So a lot of work still going on with the website. As always, it's a day-to-day thing that we're all, the content owners, DTS, Cape, Ryan and his team are always looking at content and technology of how we improve the site and deliver better customer service and better digital services to everyone. So more than willing to open up the floor for questions, comments, any sort of feedback. Here to answer anything that any questions that you have.
Great, thanks everybody. I think we'll take a round robin approach as we usually do for our topics. I'll just go down the list as it is in order in the meeting. So Prescott, you're at the top, or well, I guess Jackie on the phone, you're at the top of the list. Any questions you have?
Is that a different Jackie? Because I'm not on the phone.
Oh, there you are. Who's the 202-422-5894?
Frank.
Ah, Frank.
Can you hear me?
That's Frank.
We can hear you all the way from Sorry, go ahead.
Thursday at noon.
So start with Frank.
Yeah, Frank, do you have any questions?
Anyway, I have no questions. I think I heard the whole presentation. Great. Wanted to thank David, Maureen, and Ryan. And anyhow,
not a problem. Good to hear from you, Frank. Hope you're doing well.
All right. Andrea, there you are.
Hey, just want to echo what Frank was saying. Thank you, David, Maureen, for the presentation. Really got a lot out of that. So just looking future-wise, where we go from here. So just thank you for coming out.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Thank you.
Prescott.
I guess the one.
Oh, go ahead, Frank.
I had, will the presentation be made available to us? I did not
Yes.
see it. So. Okay, because I couldn't see it from my audio participation.
Yeah, I'll make sure it gets, I'll send it to Angela and send out to the group. I can attach it in the chat as well. I don't know which one's easier for y'all.
Well, I think
Great,
it definitely
thanks.
needs to get posted to the commission's page since it's public record now. So
I'll send it to Angela. Yep.
That'd be great.
Yep, no worries.
All right, now for real, Prescott.
Nope, I have no questions. Not great presentation. Very informative.
All right.
Thank you.
Mike. Gary. Gary, you're on mute if you're talking.
Gary, you're on mute if you're talking. Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Hello? We can hear you now. Okay, thanks. I just want to say I had noticed looking at the website some of the improvements in the redesign, and much appreciated. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Jackie.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to confess right up front, I'm the person with a million questions. So one of my questions is going to be, I really would like to think about a way that we could help with a particular type of focus group. And that is Civic Federation has quite a few people that we work with who are what I would call your frequent users. So one of the questions I have is, can you identify a list of frequent users, which might be, say, developers as a group, but it also might be if you're talking about some of these other things. I mean, I'm on the website probably half a dozen times a day, 7 days a week. And there are some people I know who are more than I am. And so there are a lot of community level questions from that set of people who are they know what they're looking for, they're familiar with the website, and they're having trouble finding things. So one source of information to give you an idea of that is if you have not received the notes from the managers roundtable. The manager recently did a roundtable with President Ford from the Civic Federation and Sarah Tracy. And one of the topics that people were asked had to do with what's working and what isn't working. And a lot of the things had to do with how to find things on the website. There were quite a few comments there. So I want to recommend that to you as a place to look. Comments that range from things like we can't find who to talk to, and is one major thing that people say. Another is historical documents. A lot of times we're looking for planning and zoning meetings, prior to 2007 or something like that. And because they're still referred to in the code, but if you want to go back and see what was said when they were adopted or the board meeting or whatever, these are important research for people who are working on things. So that's a whole nother area, historical documents, and whether the things that aren't there are lost forever or if you're going to slowly be repopulating is one of the questions. Some method of feedback on the website, like, it's not the webmaster exactly, but maybe some prominent place so that it's clear if you find a broken link that you can also have residents who are searching who can help you. So I'll give you an example that I gave the manager, and that is I was trying to find who to talk to about changes in television programming. And it used to be called television, but now it is actually a new department that I didn't know called video or digital something. So I looked at A to Z, nothing on TV. And I had to do quite a bit of searching to find out it's now called video or digital or whatever. And then the phone number was not working and there was nobody else to contact. So I contacted Bryna, and part of what we're hearing is they're getting a lot of contacts in the manager's office and the board office from people who take 3 links and then give up and call the person they know in the manager's office. So that's one thought for you. So contact information. And I know that there are lots and lots of comments about the commission template, which I believe you're working on for trying to simplify, and this is probably one of the examples, simplify the template for how you find out information about all of the county commissions. And that is something, as you may or may not know, the county board is going to be coming out with their draft new guide on commissions. And the comment period is going to be at the end of December, and the new guide is coming out in January. So one of the things people are going to be looking for is better access to information about commissions. So that's one that's in process right now. So people are having trouble, and the question they want to know is, how long? When will this be done? Because we're gritting our teeth to get through it, and we know it'll be better on the other side, but it's difficult now. So those are kind of a few basics, but the main thing really is, how do we engage productively with you going forward so that we can constructively help with what your frequent users are looking for, which is very different from the person who randomly and only occasionally wants to find a service.
Yeah, I think Ryan just posted, Jackie, to your point, not just the webmaster email, but there's a contact the county form that we actually have.
Okay, I'm seeing that he's typing. I'm not seeing the answer.
Yeah, he actually.
Okay.
Yep, it's right above.
Oh, contact Arlington.
Yeah, that's the contact Arlington.
And where would they find that?
So we link to that if on any page on the website, if you scroll down to the bottom in the footer, it's like in the big blue bar area.
It's in the
we
bottom.
have,
And
yeah,
that's what people should use if they have a problem.
Yep. Yeah. So under that, the header of contact us, there's the text, have a question, need help, contact the county and learn who to call. And that takes you to a page with half a dozen or so phone numbers that hopefully might address the question or concern that a resident might have. But if not, below that is a form as well that allows anyone to send us a message. So I'd encourage maybe sharing that as well.
Well, maybe put that at the end of this PowerPoint, because I'm planning to widely distribute the PowerPoint. So if you put the contact you want people to use for further questions at the bottom of the PowerPoint, that would be very helpful.
Sure thing, we can do that.
And then think about my frequent users group, because I think, it would be we could put together a group, and I promise to do my best to have it be constructive, comments and so on, and confess that I do fend off a lot of people who are just frustrated, and, they have to be pointed in a direction.
Yep.
I just wanted to add that same contact form, which has a lot of routing in it based on what you're, if you go through to fill out the form, I mean, there is something that goes to Webmaster, but that's specifically for issues with the website. There is a lot of routing involved in that form, and it's also available on the 404 page. So if somebody clicks a link and does not end up in the right place, they're prompted with a search box as well as a link to the contact form.
Well, maybe, but like when I got that number is no longer in service, it didn't tell me anything to do about the fact that there was no number for contacting them.
Sure, I'm just saying if you click on a link and go get to our 404 page, the broken link page, it has a link to this particular form, hoping that, if people need to contact someone, they can.
But if you're looking for a committee report, a meeting, a planning commission meeting document.
Sure. So if you're not finding your search, if your search is not producing results, that's different than a broken link, but both are important.
So what this form would be for that as well?
Yes, you can. I have people, I get a lot of the emails that go to Webmaster. So do have people who write and say, I can't find this. If I can't answer it myself, I route it to the department that can. I feel like we're very responsive.
Okay, that's great.
And it is currently used for that and can continue to be used for that.
And in terms of archive material, can we expect that some of the material that used to be there that is not there now might come back as you begin to look at historical documents and try to get them back on?
I think we would need to know specifically what is missing and then whether a content decision was made by the content owner to not include that contact. We moved everything over for the most part. So,
These are commission reports and things like that I'm talking about.
yeah, so if they were on the old website, they should still be on the new website unless the content owner decided to remove the information for some reason.
Well, I guess then we need a standard for what historical documents, need to be maintained. That would be a different topic. Does Arlington have something like that? The feds do. I know we had all these very strict rules about how long we had to keep things before we could disappear them.
We do. We use the state of Virginia has and sets the rules for retention, records retention.
Records retention, yeah.
And we do abide by those rules.
All right, so I guess we need to know what those are before we start complaining about things missing, if it's legal for them to be missing.
Yeah, I that is not my area of expertise. I guess I'll just leave it at that rather than sharing the wrong information. But
no, I got it. That's a good answer. It may have been the owner's decision.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I know I had a lot of questions.
No, not a problem, Jackie.
Gary, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think in following up Jackie's comments, there may be two sub-issues here in terms of document retention. In the first instance, that would be whether or not the county is physically retaining the documents somewhere, which is a separate question as compared with even if they have the documents, whether or not they're still being made available on the website. Those two separate questions. And Jackie's question, I think, goes more to the issue, not so much questioning whether or not the county still has them somewhere, but whether members of the public doing what they need to do can access them.
Yeah.
Yes, and if they're available not on the web, where do they go to look at them in person if that's the case?
Norrin, it may be helpful to have, is it David Moda who's still responsible for records retention?
Yes.
Give an update at a future meeting about what those rules are and how we abide by the state's laws.
Yeah.
Well, Richard can talk to those also when he's back for the next meeting, since David works for him.
Yep.
Jackie, I think it'd be useful if you could pull together some of the specific artifacts that folks are looking for that can no longer be found, so that we have something to work against.
I will start an email of feedback for you. And I do also recommend that it would be I would recommend actually doing it in person if we could, a small group of regular users. I mean, I'm thinking of like 3 or 4 people who are just on the website every day, who might be helpful on the kinds of things, but maybe I could get them to write it down and that would be better.
Okay. Miranda.
Yeah, hi everybody. I don't have any questions, but I compliment you on the research that went into making the site much more accessible and better looking. So nice work, and I appreciate you presenting to us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So that leaves me. So looking at the metrics piece, right? We asked for this topic because, as Jackie shared, there are some folks who are grumbling about the change. As someone who delivers software on a regular basis, I understand that change always causes grumbles. And so what I'm curious about is, how are we measuring the customer satisfaction and performance of the new website relative to the old website? And are we doing that? How are we doing that? Are those metrics shareable? Are some of them shareable? If not, can you characterize them for us? Kind of looking for a data-driven assessment of of the redesign.
I can speak a little bit to how we used metrics for deciding kind of what content was featured on the homepage. We did decide we wanted to be service focused. We used mainly Google Analytics. We've been running Google Analytics on the site for as long as I've been here, so quite a while. We have robust data set there. So we made those decisions based off of what the most frequently visited pages are, with the thought that getting people to those pages as quickly and as easily as possible would be best for the majority of people who are visiting our site. They may not be our most frequent visitors, but those are the pages that are getting hit the most. So let's make sure those pages are easy to find. I can say those are routinely CAP, the permits, property search, the library, parks. Those have always, as long as I've been here, been in the top 10, if not the top 5 visits, or most visited areas. We also did some public outreach using forms, and we even used some of the navigation testing software that's out there where people can group, kind of do a card sorting exercise. We did, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 different combinations of forms and those types of public facing exercises. We also did internal feedback, using the same tools to see what our staff, how they thought we should group things and name things. So that was for the launch of this site. I can say that our stats are pretty much the same from the old site to the new site, just looking at statistics. We look at the bounce rates, we look at, search results, we can look at what's being found in search, what's not being found in search. We can make some adjustments around that. We have a way to force some search results to the top of the page. So if we have a new, big development project that's launching and maybe it's got a name that isn't easy to spell, or people might be calling the project multiple things, which happens a lot for us, we can put in those keywords and force the appropriate page to the top of the search results. So that's something we do fairly frequently, just to make sure that people are getting to the right things. I think with the board reports, Ryan's office will actually test and search for some of the keywords that might be used to find things that are coming up at a board meeting, to make sure that they are coming up in the search results at a high priority. And those have been our primary ways of looking at analytics, engaging with those analytics, and making decisions based off of analytics. In terms of performance, I don't know if you mean uptime or people's sort of satisfaction and finding
satisfaction, customer satisfaction is what I'm looking for, was particularly asking about.
Yeah, I can say that the uptime has increased significantly since we got off of our old infrastructure. That was the main reason that we really needed to make a change. When we made the change, it was pretty imminent. And we have, I think, 99% uptime, and have since we moved to the new vendor, which is great.
That's great. So do we not have customer satisfaction metrics specifically?
Not really. We have heat mapping. I mean, we do look at the heat map to see, we know that people are using the hamburger menu because that's the hottest spot on the heat map. The second hottest is the big search box, which, we made big and put at the top of the page, hoping people, would use that and not struggle with finding the search box. That is being well used. The heat map also shows us kind of where else people are clicking on the page. Whether they're satisfied when they get there or not is, not easy to tell with a heat map. I know there are other software tools available where we could, watch somebody actually interacting with the site. Are they clicking on the right things? Do they look like they're lost? Those are really the only tools that we have available for satisfaction.
Okay. And then for internal users, the content owners, have you done any survey data or customer satisfaction for those folks being able to use the new content management system and manage their content effectively?
We did surveys before we launched about how they wanted everything to be, and they were all involved in the decisions that were made for publishing the site, as well as the vendor that we picked. We did feedback around sort of the different dog and ponies that we did with the vendors. Since then, no, we've not done a formal feedback. Every other Tuesday, we do have a working session. I call it like office hours, where that we have about 300 editors. They're all invited to come every other Tuesday for an hour long. We talk about a variety of things. I go over how to make a form fairly frequently. If they're struggling with something, the group can communicate with each other. If something's working, not working, they need a new feature. We have tended to use that every other week working group for that kind of feedback. We also have a Teams channel where people are sharing feedback in that way. I don't think we've done anything anonymous. We could do something anonymous. I don't know that we would change right now, but if somebody says, "Hey, listen, I don't feel like I'm getting the training I need, or I really don't know how to use this feature and I don't know what to do," and they don't feel like, maybe anonymously they could report that in and we could try to help them. Maybe not if it's anonymous, but I feel like people are very satisfied with the every other Tuesday working sessions. We've gotten really good feedback from the folks that attend that. We have folks who come to every session just because they say they learn something new every time, even if they don't have a question or something they want us to review with them. They just come to learn from each other. That organic kind of building of community among our editors has been a really nice side benefit of having those working sessions. And Ryan, you're a user. I provided this, system. You use the system. What do you think?
Like you said, we have it. We're stuck with it anyways now. No, I think it's great. And like, as someone who uses it very frequently, I enjoy it. I think, anecdotally, some of the, not even complaints, but it's the folks who don't use it that often that maybe run into problems. And amongst 300 editors, we do have a good amount who are using it somewhat sporadically, just because their job or their department doesn't require daily updates like my role does. And it's like anything, you don't use it for a few months and you log back in and try to do it again, and things just aren't, it doesn't immediately come back to mind.
Sure.
But I agree with everything Maureen said. As someone who is also there to help answer questions, it's, I am working with the other departments and on a constant basis. The thing that I've been really, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but the thing that is, I guess, sort of buoyed my spirits about it all is the willingness for a lot of our editors to think creatively and think differently and try to explore how can I make my webpage better. A small example is our sheriff's office. They hired a new public information officer, I guess earlier this year, and she didn't have any experience with Open Cities and has really taken it upon herself to make the sheriff's website more robust, more user-friendly, and has really learned a lot and come a long way in taking that pride in the web page and thinking about how can I make this a better experience for the users that are coming here. And I see that across all the departments, and I find that really encouraging. Particularly as people become more and more comfortable with a lot of the tools and the features that Open Cities has, and thinking a bit more outside the box and not just doing the same thing because we've always been doing it. And I think you see that in our web governance projects as well, trying to think differently about how we present this information in a project page, for example. Just because we've been doing it this way for years doesn't mean we need to continue. How can we iterate and make the experience better for a user?
I still frequently tell people just take out a piece of paper and draw what you think is going to work better. And then we'll look at the tool we have and see what features we can use to kind of make that come to life. There's nothing wrong with just sketching something out. I think sometimes when people want to do like a major page redesign, because we are in a CMS that's fairly templated, it feels really daunting when they're trying to pick a feature, you know, as they're building the page. Whereas if they kind of map it out, do a wireframe, have something else to look at, you know, then it's a little bit better for us to look at the page as a whole and figure out which features we have or tools we have in the system that can kind of bring that to life for them.
Awesome. My last question is about money. Because we've got
Sorry.
budget. We've
Are
got
you giving
budget
us some?
season.
Is that-
Got some?
I mean, I pay my taxes, so you know. We got budget season coming up as we do every year, and so my question is about where the resources for the website are in the budget. Are they in the capital plan? Are in the operating plan? Where are the resources for that pay for all of the support services that you're providing to your editors? Where are they in the budget so that we can advocate for the defense of those resources? Because as Jackie pointed out, the website, and I think you said in your briefing, the website is probably the most critical communications tool that the county has to engage with its citizens and the public, and for the public to engage with its government. And so I think from our perspective, it is a no-fail mission critical piece of capability that needs to be sustained and supported.
I mean, I could just add briefly too, before they answer that question for you, things like the metrics around sentiment, and there are some great tools out there. There are great things we could buy to use to gather that, to make it really easy for folks to understand exactly what's happening. But our budget for the website is pretty small. I think we do a great job with what we have. But yeah, a little extra funding would certainly make it a lot easier for us to make that type of information more available to help us continue to make better data-driven decisions.
Yeah, I think customer satisfaction, direct customer satisfaction metrics, letting people tell you how they feel, what their experience was, whether they were satisfied, is absolutely critical, because all the other stuff, it sounds like you're doing so many things right, but at the end of the day, you can't tell whether people are grumbling and it's just those people who are grumbling who speak up and most people are satisfied, or not, if you don't measure it, right? And I think so that I think that's a critical capability that's needed for the public, and secondarily to that, making sure that the customers of the website, the internal editors, are serviced well is also important, because they're the people putting the content out. So if they can't do the thing that they need to do, then it doesn't matter, right? So I think those are two critical pieces that would really help take the performance up a notch from what you're already doing.
John, just to answer your question real quick, Jackie, sorry, I know you got a question. It's all OpEx, it's no CapEx. We started briefly, it was a CapEx project, very, very briefly, and then we pulled it out of that and turned into an OpEx. So it was somewhere in between, but it's just ongoing.
So it's
OpEx.
Licensing and staff time.
Just licensing and already sunk cost for labor.
Is a cloud-based solution.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you're paying for licensing and staff time to provide support services to the internal editors, and then all of the budget for the people doing the editing come out of those departments.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And I'll just add, there's
how many
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, about how many FTEs do you have supporting the website?
You're looking at the one.
1.0.
1.0. I'd say 1.5 between another developer, myself, Ryan. Right. We might be 2 at that point, but that's fractions of other people's time. We work
very closely with the CMO, the county manager's communications team. I would say maybe 2 or 3 full-time headcount, given that this isn't the only project I work on. I have a developer that works with me. It's not the only thing he works on, but between us, maybe it ends up being 2 or 3 FTEs between the teams.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Jackie?
Yeah, on the topic of budget, one of the things that we frequently ask, and I think it may apply here as well, is since we have a distributed system, we have what you guys do for the website as a whole, but then we have what each department may budget for what they put into their pages. So one of the common things that people are commenting about has to do with data accessibility at a department level and things like they think it's open portal, but it's not open portal. It's really more like dashboards and things like that because it's not data sets. It's operational data or things like interest right now and knowing EHO permitting. And it also comes up in what is going to be an increasingly intense conversation about FOIA. And that is when it should and should not cost money to be able to find data that we might want to have be accessible, and it maybe is a matter of cost in making it accessible. So the budget question is, where does that enter into the budget? And is it at a department level, or is there something at a county level that could facilitate that? Some people have suggested that some kinds of AI might help with looking across all of the information that we have available online and finding stuff that might actually be available, but even staff has to hunt for it, so we get charged. It's things like that.
So I think what you're talking about is the FOIA request, correct?
Well, not just no.
FOIA request
Yeah,
process,
because
excuse me.
Yeah, well, FOIA is one of the ways that it shows up, but I don't actually think it's a FOIA issue.
If
I
I
think
could,
the
Jackie,
issue
if I
is
could,
what's open government, what we make available
right.
as a matter of routine.
It's the content publication, the data sets, the
Yes.
artifacts that Jackie's referring to. If they're available on the website, then you don't have to put in a FOIA request.
Right.
So again, it goes back to that, what content gets published. And from what I took earlier from the answer was, that's all dependent upon the people in the departments deciding what content to publish on their section of the website. Is that right? But there's no technical impediments to them publishing open data sets on or artifacts on the website.
No, I mean, from a technical point of view, no.
Right. Okay.
And we also, just a reminder, we do have data.arlingtonva.us. So that is our platform.
Is that baked into the same kind of publication support, or is that a separate?
That's completely separate. Yeah.
You're talking about the portal, but those
Yeah,
are
the data portal.
Those are data
open data.
sets, and that's
Yep.
even though people think that's where they should go to find it, they're not talking about data sets in the same way as the data portal does with the metadata, et cetera. They're talking about more like what I would call operational data that's developed over time, reporting. And
can you give an example, Jackie?
Well, the EHO is the hot one right now because it was something that was originally going to be in a
Dashboard.
And then the dashboard has not developed, and people are like, well, the county promised a dashboard. Why isn't there a dashboard? And the part of the question I'm asking is that budget, and is that the department? Is that county-wide? Why isn't there a dashboard? And then since there isn't a dashboard, the county is charging $75 per permit to give the information whenever there's a new permit. And there's an example of where I don't think that's about FOIA. It is about a decision of what to publish and what not to. I mean, because originally it would have been all on a dashboard and then you wouldn't have had to FOIA to get it.
So we probably can't ask the team here to answer the why question, but could we ask how someone with the current website capability would go about publishing a dashboard is
And where the
that
budget is,
because
and the budget.
right, we talked about this last time where the Power BI is provided by DTS. The departments can use it to create a dashboard and then publish it to the website. So can we walk us through that workflow?
Yeah, so I mean that there's a couple of ways we've provided for that. I mean, what we've saw a lot. Let me use COVID for an example. Our COVID dashboard, that data resided in our data warehouse, which is the data hub, which is data.arlingtonva.us behind the scenes. So that Power BI report, basically, we provided that storage space, that database structure for somebody to create that COVID Power BI report. Those services are open to, because we're an enterprise, we're across all the departments, those services are open to everybody. The platform that we're on, you basically are just hooking into that, putting the Power BI report, nesting that Power BI report within a page, just like another asset, like an image or something like that. So the ease of the tool to be able to do that, and then we provide from the technical point of view, the background or the background services, cloud services, data warehousing services to be able to store that data centrally for people to use publicly and internally as well.
But they have to set it up and populate it.
They have to come up with the data, and we help with the data structure, the database, the technical side.
And so if they're, in that case, that is a department level budget issue. That's what I'm saying. There's some aspects, and this is throughout the budget, of technology that are at the department level and some at the central level, and we have trouble figuring out which is where.
Yeah, for example, the Department of Environmental Services has a small group of folks who are pretty nifty with Power BI. So they can make their own Power BI reports and then publish them out on the website with, whatever data is important to put in that dashboard. I would say most of the departments have somebody. Some departments have, bigger departments have more than one person perhaps who has the skill set to do that in terms of making the BI report or the dashboard.
We
So
generally
should we
say
be looking at economies of scale for any of these things in terms of technology? In order to have the robust technology we want, we need to have the platform. We also need to have the people at the department level who can populate the platform. So the question really is, since we don't see the budget as a whole, should we be looking at economies of scale? How do we decide when to centralize and when to decentralize on enterprise skills?
Yeah. So, Jack, I think that's a point that we can definitely make in our budget letter to the board and the manager. From my standpoint, using data and being able to use data to produce information should be a skill set that pretty much every department needs that capability natively inside it, whether it's one human, whether it's a bunch of humans. I mean, it's basically like using a document editor at this point, or a slide, a presentation editor. It's just kind of needs to be baked into the skill set of just about everybody to be able to do some of this stuff. So I think that's a point we can make in our budget letter, that we've seen uneven, I would say, implementation of the publishing of these capabilities and the use of these capabilities, and we know that they're there, and we would encourage additional investment in training and staff to make sure that these capabilities are more broadly available throughout all county departments. Does that sound about right to you, Jackie? You're on mute.
Sorry, yes. And I know personally that when there have been vacancies in departments of the people with those skills, the data stops until they get someone rehired, and we shouldn't be that thin.
Yeah. All right. Oh yes, Ryan, we're well aware of the offer for input on the budget
I figured
process.
you were, but
do
I wanted to do my due diligence and make sure I at least drop the link in the chat. Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, those are my questions. Anyone have any follow-ups before we wrap this topic? Awesome. Really appreciate the discussion. And David, since you said that the analytics is a different capability, we're going to have you back for that one too, because that's a really awesome thing that you guys put out there. And I think we need to learn more about it and publicize it.
Yep, not a problem.
So we'll get you on the schedule for that.
Yep.
All right.
Don't want to be a stranger again.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right, going back to the agenda, you are all welcome to go on to whatever else you have to do this evening. Thank you, but you're also welcome to hang out. Legislative update. Well, thanks for coming. With Frank Jazzo. Frank, I'm happy to read your email to us if you email to me if you can't make it.
But if you want, let me. I'll try to speed through fairly quickly on it, but there were a number of items, so I'll give it a whirl.
Okay.
The national net speed increased 44%. Study. Virginia currently has the second highest average speed in the nation, ninth highest median speed. So anyway, so we're doing pretty well here in Virginia. Earlier this month, the FCC adopted final rules to prevent digital discrimination in the provision of broadband access on the religion, color, ethnicity, and national origin. The FCC has proposed creation of a schools and libraries cybersecurity pilot program to explore how universal service funds might be used to address cyber threats to schools and libraries. The White House released its national spectrum strategy, which directs government agencies to study spectrum they use, which can be given up or shared with private sector for wireless use. There's a number of bands they're looking at to try to meet the continued expanding need for wireless spectrum. Next Gen TV, which is the current and new standard for digital television, broadcast television for the nerds out there, ATSC 3.0 is its version. It demonstrated advanced data casting capabilities in partnership with Arlington County and a number of local and federal government agencies for crowd monitoring and security during the recent Marine Corps marathon. The FCC proposed E-rate support for home Wi-Fi hotspots for students and library patrons without internet access at home. The FCC is launching an inquiry regarding increasing the minimum broadband speed benchmark and looking towards setting a gigabit standard in the future. President Biden issued an executive order on artificial intelligence, which seeks to balance the interests of technology companies with national security and consumer rights concerns. That's what I got this month.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. I sent a soft copy, Gary, to you for the minutes. And I'm about to forward the draft. I don't think we have enough time to go through it tonight completely, Miranda, but I'm going to forward the draft letter so we can at least introduce the topic and hopefully get any comments back for the December meeting, and we can approve it then.
Thanks, John.
Sorry, doing this in real time. That's why it's nice to be virtual. If you want to, I'll bring it up. Just if you want to just accept all the track changes, Miranda, and bring it up to share and start walking folks through it.
Do we have drones on the schedule?
We circulated on the agenda, but we did circulate the proposed.
Yeah, I got that, and I thought it might be discussed, but I wanted to ask how we're going to provide any questions or responses.
There's a public feedback form, Jackie. I think
Yeah,
they're looking for that input.
Well, okay, then let me just say the question, and that is, we have looked at privacy for technology and all kinds of other things. And my question was, did we have any specific things that we wanted to ask about the privacy? Now, I had an opportunity to ask the police department those questions last night, and I did get the answers, and I feel comfortable with them. But my overall reaction is this is another example of something where a enterprise-wide privacy policy would be useful. And yes, it seems to me, because they say it's like the answer I got was it's very much like the body cams that the police department uses. It's on a totally separate system. It doesn't get integrated with anything else. It's in a secure, when they went through how it can't be accessed by a third party because it doesn't go through our system as a whole, which seemed like good answers, but I'm, not the expert. And the main thing I wanted to point out was I was hoping we might use this as another opportunity, not for this particular use, but to say, here is another example of where it would be valuable if we had a enterprise-wide privacy standard, and we could just use those questions to apply to this.
So Jackie, we'll request to get a briefing on the calendar. We just have already booked the broadband phase 2 study for December, so I don't think this will fix. I think that's going to be a pretty robust conversation.
Yeah, I think so. I think they may be deploying it now, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So we're a little bit behind the curve on that, I think. But Miranda, do you want to bring up the letter and give folks an introduction to it real quick?
Sure.
Do want to make sure we get out of here at 9. So
sorry.
It's coming right up. Where is it? Sorry, it's not giving me the option to share this document.
You know what? I've got it up. Why don't I share?
Okay, sounds good.
You just tell me to drive.
Okay. Cool. So I think most of you were at the meeting where we were reviewed the new parking pilot, and I know there was a lot of good discussion about that. So put together this letter, just reiterating our recommendations, our conversation, and recommending to Chairman Dorsey that we do move ahead with it. That with a few concerns that we just wanted to make sure were addressed. One of those is the data privacy. Really wanted to make sure that we are keeping that in consideration as we go forward, that it doesn't get lost, that any of the data that's put in the API or that is made available in any way does not contain any sort of PII, any personally identifiable information. And that it would all be randomized and used as in a non-specific, based on the parking, not on the person. So that was, I don't know if anyone we maybe should go through them one by one if anyone has anything to add to that.
I think I'd like to hold comments and feedback on it until next meeting and people have a chance to read it and think about it.
Great.
Just introduce
Sounds
it.
Sounds good. The other thing that we wanted to reiterate, as we have recommended before, is that that these pilot projects are really beneficial. We really like them, but that it really has to be, the community has to be engaged and involved. We want to make absolutely sure that everyone has a voice, everyone is aware, and is able to provide input on this type of a program. They've done a good job of that with this particular pilot. There've been a very large number of opportunities for people to be informed and to provide feedback, and we want that to continue. In terms of, and the other major point to be made was about accessibility. We want to make sure that accessible spots are not lost, that they are not penalized in any way for this additional, for the zones that have additional cost at peak time. So make sure right now the plan is not to make changes to any of the ADA spaces, but they are going to continue to conduct an analysis on that, and as they are understand the use as the pilot moves forward, so they can use actual data to determine their decisions. We just wanted to reiterate that it's very important to have equity in regard to these spaces. I don't know if there's anything else that you need me to point out there, John, but that's the nut of it.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thank you. So you should all have this in your inbox. The ask is to review it, provide any comments or suggested edits back to Miranda. At least, let's see, our next meeting is the 20th, which is a little bit short term. So hopefully before the 15th of December, so that Miranda has the weekend before to adjudicate any of those comments and bring them forward, and we'll have this on the agenda for the 20th with an updated conversation. Any questions from anybody on that? Awesome. Appreciate your work, Miranda. I look forward to everyone else's input.
As do I.
And let's see, back to the agenda. We did send out the minutes for October. I sent them out. Do I have a motion to move the vote, or any? I didn't see anybody make any corrections. You want to make a motion to approve the minutes from October?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Hey, I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor of approval? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes for October are approved. I didn't mention it before, but Gary had volunteered to take the minutes today, so appreciate that, Gary. Looking forward to someone volunteering for December as well before the next meeting. DTS update, Norin, anything to share?
No updates at this time, other than I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the rest of the holidays.
Great. Any good of the order in addition to Jackie's request for a briefing on the drones, the unmanned aerial systems?
Maybe I ought to roll into good of the order. Just a real quick chair's update. And for Gary's purposes, I can't see who's there. We do know, and Laura Gross and Jim Smith had excused absences due to conflicts elsewhere, but we need to, I guess, reflect in the minutes where everybody is participating.
I am participating from home in Virginia.
I am at home in Arlington, Virginia.
I am also at home in Arlington, Virginia.
I am at home in Arlington, Virginia.
I'm home in Arlington, Virginia.
Gary here. I am home in Arlington, Virginia.
All right, and just to be different and participate.
You dropped out, Frank.
Participating from Melbourne, Australia.
All right. Jackie?
I'm home in Arlington, Virginia.
Great. Anything else for good of the order?
One question, I think, for Norrin. My understanding is that the one of the franchise renewals, I don't know if it was Verizon or Comcast, came up for extension at board meeting. I think it may have been approved, I'm not sure. Are we being asked to weigh in on that at all?
No, well, Richard weighed in on it. I don't have those details with me at the moment, but that's something I can take up with him afterwards. If you want to just send me a note, and I can just follow up with it.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful just to see if, my understanding is there was some question about whether ITAC weighed in on it, but Rehad didn't know about it. So yes, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, it'd be good just to make sure there's no loops to close there.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that.
All right.
Very good.
Anything else? All right. The agenda is wrong. Frank corrected me. The next meeting is December 20th, the Wednesday before Christmas. Also virtual, so to ease any travel issues. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will so move. I move
Any
that
seconds?
we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Very good.
Thanks,
Right
everyone.
on the-
Good night,
Good night,
all.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.